Cool.
So yeah, they're actually all award-winning wines.
Oh, nice. Okay, so Mike says he has beer, so it'll have to work. No Pinot today, so
That's fine.
whatever works. Just fake it.
Yeah, this is just whatever lubrication. You know, people just need to choose their medicine wisely.
Okay, all right. Do you want to go ahead and get started, Scott? Once you get started, I'm still looking for Marie to find out where she's at.
Go ahead, get started.
She said that she was here.
Oh.
I mean, I got her text anyway.
I think she said she's in the waiting room.
Oh, is she in the waiting room?
No, that was
Okay.
me.
Okay.
So I'm out of the waiting room now.
Okay, so I just have to get her, and I just tried to call her. Make sure she had the link. Okay, she saw it. Oh, okay, she's writing something here.
Okay.
Well, go ahead and get started. Ready for what? You are on right now. Okay. Okay, go ahead and get started, Scott. Not Scott, I'm sorry, Ross.
So, would you like me to introduce myself?
I would, or do you want us to introduce you?
Well, why don't you start and then I can fill in the gaps.
Okay, so we're going to have a wine tasting sort of how you do this when you go out from Ross Halleck, and he is the owner of Halleck Vineyards, and that's in Sonoma, right?
It's in Sonoma County, and the town is Sebastopol.
Ah,
So
all right.
people misunderstand.
Sebastopol.
Sonoma County, like it takes 3 hours to go from one end of Sonoma County to the other. So it's
Okay,
big.
you're totally going to laugh. Do you know Bernadette Byrne?
Bernadette, no.
Oh, okay.
I might.
All right. Never mind. I thought she was right up in that area and she does something with wines. Anyway, he's going to do.
Well, there are a lot of us here.
There are a lot of
Sort of
yeah.
like saying, do you live in New York? Do you know?
Okay. All right. So, all right. Got off track there. But you can see behind him all of the awards that his vineyard has won over the years. And what's cool is he's going to be one of our panelists tomorrow too, because he has made a pivot in all of this and I'll let him explain it tomorrow, but he included his community in what he's doing. And so he's helping a lot of people out, and he's facilitating contact during this isolation through virtual wine parties as well. So Ross, welcome. I'm super excited.
My pleasure to be here. And how many people are here? Who am I talking to?
I think we have 13 left.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody jumped off, but a lot of people jumped off, but we have 13 people left who couldn't wait to hear you do this.
Well, I just welcome you all and thank you for having me. And I think probably the thing that I can add the most value here is teaching people how to taste wine. Does that sound like a good idea?
Sounds great.
Okay, good. So, I don't know if you can do a poll. I can't see anybody. So how many people here are drinking wine? How many people have a glass of wine in front of them?
I don't know, just put your hand up. How do you want to do that? Or write in that you have wine with you? Nobody's writing. Oh no. Let's just assume they all do. I know Merrill did. Merrill was waiting for this. He had his wine ready after his talk at 3.
Well, it's a little important because it's kind of like a participation experience, but I'll talk it through. And
oh, okay.
Well, you can do this with iced tea too.
Okay.
So I have a glass of our estate-grown Pinot Noir in front of me, and the reason I have that is because it is from my backyard. This is the wine that kind of put us on the map. It's a 1-acre vineyard, and we were judged #1 Pinot Noir in the United States, our very first vintage. And we had the privilege of being judged #1 Pinot Noir in the United States last year too. And so anyway, the first thing in tasting a glass of wine is smelling it. And so and you can do this with whatever you're drinking, be it beer, although it's a little hard with spirits because spirits it has a lot of volatile alcohol, and it often makes you uncomfortable. But the first thing you do is you smell the wine. And the reason we smell the wine is because our tongue actually only tastes 6 things. So those are sweet, sour, salt, bitter, a Japanese term called umami, which means savory, or which means savory, and it has a certain different connotation in Japan, but we translate it to savory. And just recently, actually, a new taste has been discovered. It happened on July 3rd of 2015. So in other words, on July 2nd of 2015, we tasted 5 things. And then on July 3rd of 2015, we evolved as a species and we began tasting 6. I don't know what you were doing on that morning, but it was a big morning for Homo sapiens. And that 6th thing that we began tasting on July 3rd was a term that doesn't actually roll off your tongue, haha. It's called oleogustus, and it means fat. And so, and it was a result of a paper published by Purdue University and then republished by the New York Times. And and then generally accepted across academic circles around the world. So the point is if our tongue only tastes 6 things, then this thing we call flavor, which is this infinite number of experiences, and it changes from birth to passing, and it evokes memory, association. We use metaphor to describe it. You know, I'll smell this wine and it'll smell like forest floor as an example, or dark cherries. Well, I haven't put anything in the forest in this wine, and I certainly haven't put dark cherries in this wine. It's all grape juice, but we use metaphor to describe flavor, again, because it brings up associations and even emotion. So this thing we call flavor happens somewhere else. And so science believes it happens in our olfactory receptors. You remember that from high school biology, your olfactory receptors? Now, in fact, science does not know how we smell. So this is still a theory. And they've been working on it diligently for many, many years. In fact, we're further away now from knowing how we smell than we were even 10 years ago. It becomes a bigger mystery. But for the sake of discussion, we'll say that it happens in our olfactory receptors. And of course, they've been working on it a long time because, you know, it's a $1 trillion industry. You think of all the products we consume, from children's toys to laundry detergent to cosmetics to that cloying aroma in airports that make you desire a cinnamon pastry. So all of those things require human panels. They're very expensive to produce, and they become part of brands. So if science actually understood how we smelled and how those molecules interacted with our olfactory receptors, they might be able to 3-dimensionally print them and deliver them over our handheld devices. Or movies would become 4-dimensional. And so for the sake of discussion, we're going to say that it is our olfactory receptors that are responsible for this thing we call flavor. And so the reason we smell to begin is to augment and prepare those taste buds that we have for the full experience of tasting. Now, one of the big mysteries around tasting is that our olfactory receptors are directional. I'm going to take these off. Our olfactory receptors are directional. There are 2 access points to them. One is through our nostrils, which is why we smell to begin. And the second is through a passage in the back of our throats. It's called the nasopharynx. Any of you who have worked in the medical profession know that the nasopharynx connects your nostrils to the back of your palate. And so I want everybody to swallow once and notice what your tongue does. It pushes up, right? So that is a protective device. If you are about to swallow anything that is not good for you, you will choke, gag, or throw up right now. And it doesn't happen when we smell. They are the same molecules. They are going to the same olfactory receptors. There is no physical change to them. There is no difference in distance. Science does not understand that. But what it suggests is that in order to fully taste, you have to get as many molecules up through the nasopharynx as possible. So one of the techniques that you may have noticed when you're with people who taste wine is a technique that our parents taught us was very impolite at the table. They called it slurping. Okay, so this technique that I'm going to share with you, I do not call slurping. I have a little post-traumatic stress around that word. I grew up in a generation, it looks like some of you did too, where parents laid hands on their children. And I was a taster since I was a little tyke, and every time I slurped at the table, I got one of these. That is impolite at the table. And it's ironic to me that it was perfectly polite to hit your child in front of anybody, anywhere. You could even ask your neighbor, will you hit him for me? And it was impolite to slurp at the table. Well, I did a lot of slurping and I got a lot of these. And so I do not call this technique I'm about to share with you slurping. I call it bong hit tasting. And you'll understand why I call it that when I share, and it's not just because I'm from California, or I could be from, I guess, Colorado. It's not just because I come from California that I call it that. It's actually because of the experience itself. So I'm going to take a little wine. I'm going to put it in my mouth, just like a half a teaspoon, not very much. And I'm going to put it behind my lower front teeth, right here. And I'm going to push it up with my tongue. So it's in front of my tongue, not behind my tongue. And then I'm going to purse my lips and I'm going to draw air through it. And it's going to bubble. And it's going to sound like a water pipe in my head. And then I'm going to do something equally awkward. I'm going to chew like this with my mouth closed. Now, I'm not chewing to grind up all those pesky little molecules and squeeze out all their juices. I'm chewing because our jaw is a switch. Are you texting me, Juliet? So I'm getting some questions here. Let me finish and I'll answer the questions. So our jaw is a switch. And by chewing with your mouth closed, a lot of things happen. One, your digestive juices start producing. You start salivating, and it turns on your olfactory receptors like that, just by doing this. And so I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to do this, and then I want everybody to try it, and I'll talk a little bit about what happens. Now, you don't have to do that long. Just a couple of seconds works. But you'll notice if you have a glass of wine in your hand and you're drinking it, that the flavor explodes in your mouth. And you get all sorts of other notes that you would not have normally perceived just by tasting the wine. Now, the good news about that is if you're drinking an extraordinary wine like this is, it brings out, these, flavors of like cedar and tobacco and mushrooms, as well as the fruit of dark cherries and plums. And it has all this complexity, and it lasts for minutes and minutes and minutes. Now, if you're drinking not a great wine, it brings out all the flaws in the wine. So this is a technique that tasters use in order to evaluate wines. And it's also a technique to really get the most out of a glass of wine. And the first thing I'm going to say is that this is polite in any restaurant in the world. So to put a kibosh on this is not polite. In fact, in Japan and in Asian countries, slurping is not only not impolite, it is complimentary to the chef. It describes that you are deeply appreciating what they have prepared for you because you have such a much deeper experience of the flavor. So if you're drinking an inexpensive wine that isn't very good, you don't want to do this. If you're just drinking for effect, then you just, you drink it cold and quickly. But if you have a really fine glass of wine and you're at a restaurant and you're pairing it with food and you have food that goes along with the wine, this technique will blend the food and the wine together in a way that no other technique can, and you'll have a much deeper appreciation for the wine. And all of a sudden, if you do this through the course of a meal, that $100 that you've just spent on this bottle of wine, you go, I just spent $100 on a bottle of wine. It will seem like a bargain because of how much it enhances the meal. So that's my little tutorial. I have some questions here. How do you know you have a flawed wine? Well, there's a really simple answer to that. If you don't like it.
Okay.
You know, because at the end, now the problem with this answer is that if you're at a restaurant and you've just ordered a bottle of wine and they bring it to you and you taste it and it's not flawed, but you don't like it, you're kind of stuck with it. Now, if you don't like it and you think it might be flawed, well, that's when you bring the sommelier or the wine steward or the manager of the restaurant and ask them, can you please taste this and tell me if this is okay? And they'll be honest with you. If the wine is flawed, and the most common flaw in a wine is a flavor, it's described as corked, if the wine is corked. And it has nothing to do with the cork, by the way. A corked wine has a really distinctive flavor. It doesn't matter if it's white or red. It's the same flavor. And it's a result of a molecule called trichloroanisole. And what it does is it robs the fruit and makes the wine smell and taste like old newspapers. Oh. And it's very, very common. You get maybe one corked bottle of wine, maybe in every 20 bottles. Now that isn't true of our wines. We rarely have a corked bottle of wine, but in the real world, it's about, anywhere from 3 to 8% of wines have this molecule called trichloroanisole. And keep in mind, this molecule is not living. It's not an infection. It is an affection, meaning an effection. So it's this molecule that randomly occurs in wine. It comes from glass. It comes from wood. And just random bottles have this flaw in it. So the thing to know right out of the gate, you can smell a corked wine a mile away. If it smells like your grandmother's basement, you know you have a flawed wine. But there are other things that can flaw wines that have different, it can be oxidized. Oftentimes that's shown by in a red wine, the edges of the wines are amber color instead of red. Now, sometimes that's just the age of the wine and they're not flawed, but there are little tips. And it's just a matter of experience and learning that you can identify all the various flaws that can happen in wine. But corking is the most prevalent. So let's see. Why are some people better tasters than others? Can this be learned? Yes, it can be learned. In fact, it must be learned. We take tasting for granted, and so people don't put a lot of focus on it. But there's if you look on the internet, there's a thing called an Aroma Wheel that you can download, and it gives you a whole vocabulary and how flavors. It's a wheel, and it's in spokes, and it's got different colors, and it has all these different words for describing how things taste. And the best way to learn is, of course, with experience and with other people. So it's a community activity, learning how to taste, and it's super fun. And for those of you that are tasters like me, I'm kind of an oral person, and you notice I talk a lot. Tasting has opened up doors that have just enhanced my life tremendously, and not the least of which is being able to appreciate a good glass of wine.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Can we bring Marie on? Because Marie, Ross has been here with one of his Pinot Noirs. Pinot Noir, right? I'm not a wine.
Pinot Noir, that's correct.
And Chef Marie, who a lot of you guys may know, we have her, she has her glass of wine right there, has done a pairing recipe with Pinot Noir. And for those of you who don't watch the Monday Marketing Mixer, Chef Marie and her team of experts at MChef have developed over the last decade a new spice solution of certified organic USDA, kosher, and HACCP, which I don't know what that is, filler-free from the 12 main allergens. And she actually has a line. She's sitting there laughing like, what are you talking about, Juliet? But who knew that, you know, a lot of these spices had things in them that we don't want. So Chef Marie is one of the pioneers in North America to offer unique alternatives that are improved, optimized, clean spices that she's introduced to the spice market. And she has a recipe she's going to share with us today. So welcome, Marie. Did you turn your microphone off?
I am here. Do you hear me?
We can hear you. Do you guys just love
hear
that
me?
little
Loud and
French
clear.
accent?
It's the French accent from Montreal. But you know, this accent just don't go away. I'm sorry about that.
So
Thank you
cute.
for having me today. I'm very happy to share a food and wine experience with all of you today. Thank you.
That's
Okay,
great.
so
Go
to
ahead.
go to go with the Pinot Noir, I've discussed with Ross previously about the recipe that I wanted to share with you. It's very simple. I hope that you guys have an onion at home. It's gonna be very easy breezy. We're gonna make a cheesy bacon bite with a caramelized honey onion and a little bit of roasted pine nuts. Easy breezy on a crostini or crouton. So let's talk about the recipe. First of all, in a medium pan, over high heat with a little bit of heat and a nub of butter, you're gonna mince finely an onion, just one. You're gonna have about 8 servings, easy breezy. What you want to get is a coloration, very, very mild golden coloration with the butter and the oil. Why we put both fats, it's because we want to make sure that the butter will give that beautiful golden color, and with the oil it allows us to go a little bit higher into our intensity of heat, so we will get that brown onion that we want to get. Then when we get that coloration, we'll add just simply not much, because Pinot Noir is, you know, has its sweetness, so we don't want to go there. You know, we really want to have a dosed caramelized onion confit. So therefore, we're gonna have only 1 teaspoon of honey, because honey and fat together, butter and honey, just bind so well to get the coloration that we're looking for. The secret here is to put some water. You could put a little bit of vinegar if you want, but I'm not gonna go there today, because Pinot Noir, we want to respect its beautiful taste and flavored notes. So we're just gonna go with water today. Water, it would be half a cup. Then we let it simmer. So we bring to a boil, we let it simmer, and then we repeat the operation with a very tender texture of the onion. And of course, I will add one of my famous spices, that it's herbs of south of France. This is a herbs from Provence with dried tomatoes, lavender, and flavor notes of lemon. It's gonna go very, like, marry beautifully the flavors together. And that's it. So then you're gonna have your confit onion. You're gonna put on the side. Gonna make a nice crouton, easy breezy, just a little drizzle of olive oil. You can also put a little bit of flour salt or any type of good quality salt that you have. And then you put your caramelized onion on top of the crouton. You check in your fridge what type of cheese you have. Take the cheese that you like the most. For this type of recipe, I'd like to the old cheddar, but if you have goat cheese or brie, you take whatever you like. It's Friday, it's Easter Friday, enjoy. It's gonna go so well with it. And then after that, you can add a little bit of nuts that will be roasted when you're gonna put it in the oven. 350 degrees, just to let the cheese melt beautifully, and you get your bite easy breezy. Onion confit. What else do you want? It can accompany so many things after that, you know. You don't need to have it only for your cheese appetizer with your Pinot Noir. After that, you can accompany it with sandwich and over pizza and accompany your meat, fish, tofu. You know, it's such an easy recipe and anyone can do it because I hope you have an onion at home right now.
That's great.
Easy breezy.
Juliet,
And
you
then-
are. Can you hear Juliet talking?
Please go ahead.
Juliet, you're muted.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Do you have a page we can go to grab that recipe, don't you?
Well, that recipe has been shared with you. I will put it on my website. I thought it was exclusive to the summit. So yes, I will put it on the website. And I have also prepared this morning an article for your summit for everyone at home. It's on mchef.com. If you can find at the blog, it's a super useful, practical article about things to do in a kitchen. So clean your kitchen, your fridge, what to do, what to plan ahead for the menu part, when to go at the grocery, and how long should I buy grocery for, 2 weeks in advance, and what to buy. I thought the basic essentials to keep at home as for food wise. And I also give a lot of tips to have fun this weekend with your kids. There's so many ways to experience cooking and baking. Please check it out. I will share this post with you. I actually did it this morning, but if we can share to our audience, I'm sure they will like the article.
Yes.
It's full of joy.
It's at mchef.com, right?
Yeah, I
Yes,
just
if
found
you
it here
want,
and I posted the,
Okay.
yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marie.
You found it?
Yeah. Yay!
Thank you for inviting me again. I really appreciate your time, and happy Easter to everyone. You know, try to find some joy into a burst of flavors, you know, because that's what it counts. Especially every day right now, it's about food. It's so good, and food is the medicine.
It is. So Scott, I think that wraps it up for today, doesn't it? Unless these guys have questions, go over and check out that article, because it's always great to know, you know, all of those things about keeping your kitchen clean, especially now with coronavirus. You know, we want to make sure that our families are safe, especially if we're serving raw food. And go grab her recipe, grab a bottle of Ross. Ross, can we order a bottle? You have subscription boxes, don't you?
yes, you can order a bottle. I'll put my, let's see, I'll put my email address, our website here.
Okay.
Halleck Vineyard without an S.com.
You guys
And-
make sure you show up tomorrow for the pivot panel. It's at 3:30 Pacific. You guys can translate that out. Ross is going to tell you guys what he did with his business, and it's just so inspiring that, you know, he made this pivot right at the right time. And we're also going to have a magician, Heather. What's Heather's? Roberts. Heather Roberts.
Rogers.
Yeah, Heather Rogers on as well. So Ross and Marie, thank you so much. And we will see you guys tomorrow.
It's a perfect
Okay.
pairing, by the way,
safe.
magic and wine.
There you go.
Exactly.
Chin
You
chin.
could do some things with a wine glass,
Thank
I'll
you,
tell
Ross.
you. Yeah.
All right. Thank
All right.
you guys.
Thank
We'll see
you
you tomorrow
all.
morning.
Bye.
Bye-bye.